Intelligence Officer Mi Young-seo stared at the screens in the hidden command center on Earth. Bad news was coming in from all over the galaxy. The cover story was falling apart faster than anyone had expected. "Admiral," she said to Dong-Hyun Nam, who stood behind her with his arms crossed. "We have 15 different council species sending spy ships toward our system. They're not even trying to hide it anymore." The Admiral's jaw was tight. 300 years of careful planning, and it was all crumbling in a matter of days. "Show me the worst of it," he said. Mi Young pulled up a star map. Red dots showed enemy ships moving toward Earth from every direction. The Crystalline Collective is the biggest problem. Their Hive Queen Zixathara has sent 12 reconnaissance vessels. They'll reach the outer system in 6 days. Far out in space, beyond the orbit of Neptune, Captain Yujin Han was already dealing with the first wave of spies. Her ship, the Invisible Thunder, was one of Earth's most advanced stealth vessels. To any scanner, it looked like empty space, but the Vorthon probe she was tracking was no ordinary spy device. It was the size of a small building and packed with sensors that could detect things most species had never even heard of. "Target acquired," her weapons officer reported. "The probe is scanning everything. It's found the mining stations on Triton. It's found the orbital platforms around Uranus. Captain, it's even detected the hidden bases in the asteroid belt." Yujin closed her eyes for a moment. Those bases were supposed to be invisible. If the Vorthons could find them, how much else had they discovered? "Take it out," she ordered. "Make it look like an accident." The probe exploded in a flash of light that would look like a natural collision with space debris. But Yujin knew it was too late. The probe had already sent most of its data back to Vorthon space. On Earth, President Da-Eun-oh sat in a room that did not officially exist. The shadow cabinet meeting was taking place 3 miles underground in a bunker that could survive the destruction of the planet's surface. Around the table sat the real leaders of humanity, the people who had been running Earth's true government while the council thought they were dealing with simple farmers. "The data leak is worse than we thought," General Kyung-ho Baek said, throwing holographic reports into the air above the table. "They know about the colonies, all 47 of them." The room went quiet. The colonies were humanity's greatest secret. Worlds like New Korea in the Vega system, New Sol orbiting Proxima Centauri, and the massive industrial complex on Kepler 442b. Each one was home to hundreds of millions of humans, and each one had technology that would make council scientists cry. "How many people are we talking about?" the president asked. 12,400,000,000 humans spread across known space, General Baek replied, plus another 3 billion in the generation ships that are still traveling to new worlds. Dr. Hae-won Yoon, the xenobiologist who had spent decades studying council species, leaned forward. "The psychological impact is going to be enormous. Most council members think the entire human race could fit in one of their smaller cities. When they learn the truth, they'll panic," President Oh finished. Mi Young-seo's voice came through the speakers from the intelligence center above them. "We're intercepting council communications now. It's as bad as we feared." The president activated the audio feed. Alien voices filled the room, speaking in dozens of languages that the translation computers turned into Korean. "Impossible that such a primitive species could have hidden this from us. Their military must be vast to support such a population. What if they've been lying about everything else too? We should have destroyed them when they were weak." But it was the last transmission that made everyone in the room go cold. "Fleet Commander Korthix to High Command," came the electronic voice of the hegemony's war leader. "Request permission to mobilize Peace Enforcement Fleet. Target, Sol System. Mission: investigate anomalous activity and secure potential threat to galactic stability." President Oh looked around the table. "How long do we have?" "The hegemony fleet moves fast," General Baek said. "Maybe 2 weeks before they reach the outer system." Communication Director Min-ho Kang had been quiet during the meeting, but now he spoke up. "There's something else. I've been monitoring deeper channels. The council isn't just scared of our population and technology. They're scared because they think we've been manipulating them." "What do you mean?" Min-ho activated a new set of recordings. These voices were different, more frightened. The medical breakthrough that saved the Andromedan colonies came from nowhere. The weapons technology that stopped the destroyer fleet at Rigel 7 was too advanced for any known species. What if the mysterious benefactor that has been helping us for centuries was Earth all along? President O felt a chill run down her spine. The humans had indeed been the mysterious benefactor. For 200 years, whenever the galaxy faced a crisis too big for the Council to handle, Earth had quietly stepped in to help. Always in secret. Always hiding their involvement. The Andromedan plague that would have killed billions across 12 worlds. Human medical teams had developed the cure and delivered it through shell companies and fake alien identities. The destroyer fleet that had swept in from dark space to consume entire star systems. The human navy had engaged them in a massive battle, then let the Council take credit for the victory. The quantum storms that had threatened to tear apart the galactic core? Human scientists had built the stabilizers and hidden them as natural phenomena. They're figuring it out, Dr. Yoon said quietly. 3 centuries of secret intervention, and they're finally connecting the pieces. Above them, in the intelligence center, Captain Wu Jin-che was coordinating with human agents throughout Council space. The news was getting worse by the hour. Agent, Park reports from Altarian space that they're mobilizing their entire exploration fleet. He told me, Young. Agent Lee says the Crystalline Collective is preparing for what they call defensive action against deceptive species. And Agent Kim on the Vorthon homeworld says they're already calling for humanity to be expelled from the Council. Mi Young rubbed her tired eyes. What about our people on Council worlds? Can we get them out? That's the problem. There are over 50,000 humans living and working throughout Council space. Most of them don't even know about the masquerade. They think they're just normal humans from a normal world. In the deep bunker, President O was facing the hardest decision any human leader had ever faced. For 3 centuries, Earth had hidden its true nature to protect both humanity and the galaxy from chaos. But now the choice was being taken away from them. Options, she said simply. General Bayek spoke first. We can try to maintain the cover story, claim the intelligence is fake or exaggerated, maybe buy ourselves more time. That won't work, Dr. Yoon said. Too much evidence, too many witnesses. The lie is broken. We could withdraw, suggested Min Ho Kung. Pull all our people back to human space, seal our borders, let the Council think what it wants to think, and abandon our responsibility to protect the galaxy? General Beck shook his head. There are threats out there that the Council can't even imagine. Without us watching the borders, entire civilizations could be wiped out. President O looked up at the ceiling, toward the surface of Earth where millions of humans lived normal lives, never knowing that their world was the secret guardian of the galaxy. There is one more option, she said slowly. We tell them the truth. All of it. The room went silent. The truth about our population, the truth about our technology, the truth about all the times we've saved them without them knowing. That could cause a galactic war, General Bayek warned. Or it could save the galaxy from something much worse, the president replied. Because if they kick us out of the Council, if they make us their enemy, they're going to learn very quickly that we weren't hiding from them because we were weak. Far out in space, monitoring stations that had been watching the galaxy's borders for centuries began detecting new signals. Ancient enemies were stirring in the darkness between galaxies. Threats that only humanity knew how to fight were beginning to move again. The galaxy was about to learn Earth's true identity, but Earth was about to learn that it might need to reveal itself much sooner than planned. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as 2 weeks became 1 week, and the point of no return grew closer with each passing hour. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so packed. Every seat was filled, and many beings floated or stood in the aisles. The air was thick with tension, and the smell of fear from a dozen different species. Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by a circle of angry alien faces. Above him, holographic screens showed the evidence that had been gathering for weeks. Images of Earth's real cities with their gleaming towers that reached into the sky. Pictures of the massive orbital stations around Mars and Jupiter. Video, feeds of the hidden shipyards where vessels the size of mountains were under construction. Supreme Chancellor Morden, the ancient leader of the council, raised his 6 arms for silence. His voice, when it came, was cold and sharp as winter wind. "Ambassador Kim," he began, "for 3 centuries your species has sat in these halls. You have voted on our laws. You have received our protection. You have taken resources meant for developing worlds." The screens changed, showing more evidence. Trade records that showed Earth receiving technology transfers meant for primitive civilizations. Military protection agreements that assumed humanity could barely defend itself. Resource allocations that treated Earth like a charity case. All of this, Mordun continued, while hiding the fact that your people number in the billions, while concealing technology that rivals our greatest achievements, while maintaining a secret empire that spans dozens of star systems. Hyunwoo kept his face calm, but inside his heart was pounding. This was the moment they had all feared for 3 centuries, the moment when the truth finally came out. Chief Archivist Il-sung Park stepped forward from the human delegation. His job was to manage Earth's historical records, but his real job was much more important. He was the keeper of humanity's greatest secrets. "Honorable Council," he said in a steady voice, "before you judge us, you should know the whole truth." The chamber erupted in angry shouts. "More lies!" screeched the Altarian representative. "How can we trust anything you say now?" But Il-sung Park continued speaking, his voice somehow carrying over the noise. "For 2 centuries there have been mysterious events throughout the galaxy. Plagues that were cured overnight by unknown benefactors. Invasion fleets that disappeared without explanation. Natural disasters that were stopped by impossible technology." He activated his own set of holographic displays. New images filled the air above the chamber. Pictures of human medical teams working in secret on plague-infected worlds, wearing false alien disguises. Video of human warships engaging massive enemy fleets in the darkness between stars. Records of human scientists building miracle devices and leaving them for other species to find. The mysterious benefactor who saved the Andromedan colonies from the flesh-eating plague? That was us. Il-sung's voice was getting stronger now. The unknown force that stopped the destroyer fleet before it could consume the Rigel system? That was the human navy. The chamber was going quiet now, but it was not a peaceful quiet. It was the silence of shock and growing fear. The miracle technology that sealed the quantum rifts threatening the galactic core. Human scientists built those stabilizers and hid them so you would think they were natural formations. On the screens, more evidence appeared. Battle recordings from conflicts the Council had never known existed. Medical breakthroughs that had appeared naturally in Council databases. Engineering marvels that had been attributed to ancient civilizations but were actually human constructions from the past 50 years. Captain Sujin Lim, commander of the dreadnought Indomitable Spirit, received an emergency message on her private communicator. Her ship was hidden in the shadow of Europa, along with 50 other human warships that the Council had never detected. The message was simple. Prepare for full exposure protocol. She turned to her crew. All hands, this is the captain. Today, we stop pretending to be something we're not. Today the galaxy learns who we really are. In the council chamber, War Chief Brekthar was on his feet, his fur standing up with rage. You dare claim to be our protectors, while lying to us for centuries, while making us look like fools? But Dr. Yoonji Park stepped forward, and her entire appearance began to change. Gone was the simple dress of a basic scientist. Gone was the humble posture and the uncertain voice. She stood straight and proud, and when she spoke, her voice carried the authority of command. I am not Dr. Yoonji Park, plant researcher from Earth, she said. I am Fleet Admiral Yoonji Park, Supreme Commander of the Terran Deep Space Defense Network. The silence in the chamber was so complete that everyone could hear the hum of the life support systems. For 300 years, my people have stood guard at the edges of known space. We have fought battles that would give you nightmares. We have faced enemies that would destroy entire star systems just for fun. We have died by the millions to keep threats away from your worlds, and you never even knew we existed. Trade sovereign Lixandra, whose people controlled most galactic commerce, stood up with her legs shaking. The economic data, she whispered. All these years we thought we were the ones managing galactic trade. But the patterns, the market stabilizations, the resource flows that never made sense. You were never managing galactic trade, Admiral, Park said simply. We were. Every economic crisis that resolved itself mysteriously, every trade route that opened at just the right moment, every resource shortage that ended just before it could cause wars. That was human intervention. Emperor Zalcorvian of the Stellar Dynasty, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, leaned forward in his throne. The military implications, he said in a voice like distant thunder. If you have been manipulating our economies, our trade routes, our resource distributions, what else have you been controlling? The screens around the chamber changed again. This time they showed the true scope of human civilization, not just the 47 colony worlds, but the thousands of monitoring stations, defense platforms, and hidden bases scattered throughout Council space, the vast industrial complexes in the empty regions between stars, the generation ships carrying millions of humans to new worlds beyond the galaxy's edge. Your fleets, Admiral Park continued, have been surrounded by human vessels for decades. Every Council military exercise has been observed by our ships. Every Council weapon has been studied and countered. Every Council defense has been quietly improved by our technology. Fleet Commander Corthix, who had been planning to lead the invasion of human space, felt his mechanical heart skip a beat. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected any such presence. Captain Yujin Han chose that moment to decloak her ship, directly above the Council station. The invisible thunder appeared out of nowhere, its weapons trained on the station's shields. Then another ship decloaked. Then another. Within minutes, the entire Council station was surrounded by human vessels that had been invisible seconds before. Your sensors, Admiral Park said with a slight smile, were designed by us. We know exactly how to hide from them. Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim finally spoke, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. We did not hide from you because we were weak. We hid from you because you were. The words hit like a physical blow. In the gallery, beings who had thought themselves the masters of the galaxy suddenly felt very small and very helpless. We watched your civilizations grow. We hoped that someday you would be strong enough, wise enough, mature enough to be our equals. We wanted partners, not subjects. He gestured to the chaos around him, to the fear and anger on every alien face. Instead, the moment you learned of our true nature, your first instinct was to destroy us. Your first thought was not wonder or hope for cooperation, but fear and plans for war. Supreme Chancellor. Mordan's voice was barely a whisper. What happens now? Admiral Park looked around the chamber, at the hundreds of beings who represented thousands of worlds and trillions of lives. Now you have a choice, she said. You can accept that humanity has been your protector for centuries and continue to benefit from that protection. Or you can reject us, cast us out, try to fight us. She paused, letting the implications sink in. But if you choose to fight, you should know what you're really choosing. Because the threats we've been protecting you from, they're still out there, and without us you won't last 6 months. The chamber remained silent, but it was no longer the silence of shock. It was the silence of an entire galaxy, trying to decide whether it was brave enough to face the truth about how small and vulnerable it really was. The transmission from the Council chamber spread across the galaxy at light speed, carried by quantum communicators and hyperspace relays to every inhabited world. Within hours, entire star systems had gone dark. Not dark from destruction, but dark from silence. Captain Wu Jin-che sat in the communication center on Luna Base, watching the galaxy's information networks collapse into stunned quiet. His screens showed communication traffic dropping to almost nothing across hundreds of worlds. They're all just stopped talking, he reported to Admiral Dong-hyun Nam. The Altarian news networks went silent 3 hours ago. The Crystalline Collective's hive mind chatter just ended. Even the warrior clans have stopped their constant battle song broadcasts. Admiral Nam stood behind him watching the readouts. In all his years of service, he had never seen anything like this. It was as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath. What about military movements? He asked. That's the strange part. Sir, nothing. The hegemony fleet that was heading for our system has stopped dead in space. The Vorthan war fleets have powered down their weapons and are just floating. It's like they're all too shocked to move. In the hidden command centers, throughout human space, similar reports were coming in. The galaxy was paralyzed by the revelation that humanity was not what they had pretended to be for 3 centuries. Admiral Nam activated the emergency protocols that had been prepared for this day. "Begin Operation Daylight," he ordered. "Let them see who we really are." Across the solar system, massive installations began to power up. The artificial structures on the moons of Jupiter revealed themselves, shedding the illusions that had hidden them for decades. They were not mining, operations, or research stations. They were fortress cities, each one capable of housing millions of humans and producing enough firepower to destroy planets. The Titan shipyards, hidden for so long behind false asteroid fields, began launching vessels that had been under construction for years. Ships the size of small moons emerged from their building bays, their hulls gleaming with technologies that made Council dreadnoughts look like children's toys. Strategic analyst Yejin Ryu was working frantically at her computers, calculating the psychological impact of the revelation on each Council species. The numbers were terrifying. "Admiral," she called out, "the industrial capacity comparison is complete." Admiral Nam looked at her screen and felt a chill. The calculation showed that humanity's true industrial output was greater than the combined production of the next 50 Council species. Their population, spread across dozens of hidden worlds, rivaled the 3 largest galactic empires combined. And the technology assessment? Yejin pulled up another set of data. "Our technology development has been following completely different paths from Council science for centuries. That makes us almost impossible to predict or counter. They have no defense against most of our weapons because they don't even understand the basic principles." On the Council station, Emperor Zalcorvian was trying to rally some kind of response. He activated the emergency military frequencies, calling for all Council fleets to unite against the human threat. But Battle Commander Vorthek's response was not what he expected. "My Emperor," came the trembling voice of the military leader, "our fleets are surrounded. Human ships are decloaking throughout Council space. They've been there all along." Around the galaxy, the same scene was playing out. Human vessels that had been invisible for decades were revealing themselves. Not just a few ships, but thousands of them. Entire fleets that had been watching and waiting in the shadows. The Terra's Wrath, humanity's greatest fortress ship, decloaked, near the galactic capital. It was so large that its shadow covered 3 Council battle stations. Its weapon systems alone were more powerful than most species' entire militaries. Colonel Bo-Ram Kim, the ship's commanding officer, opened a communication channel to every inhabited world in the galaxy. "People of the Council," her voice echoed, "across thousands of worlds. For 300 years we have been your silent guardians. We have been your invisible shield against threats you cannot imagine." On her command bridge, screens showed the true scope of human military power. Battle fleets that had been fighting wars in the darkness between galaxies, defense platforms that had been quietly destroying cosmic threats for centuries, weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. We hoped that you would mature enough to eventually become our equals. We hoped that someday we could stand beside you as friends and partners. The communication was being received by every government, every military, every civilian communication network in known space. For the first time in galactic history, AI Dur single voice was speaking to every living being at once. Instead, your first instinct upon learning our true nature was to destroy us, to gather your fleets and plan our extermination. On the bridge of the Terra's Wrath, tactical displays showed the positions of every Council military vessel. They were all within range of human weapons. All of them could be destroyed within minutes if the order was given. So now you have learned the truth. We are not your equals, we are not your partners. We are your protectors, and we have been keeping you safe from things that would make your worst nightmares seem like pleasant dreams. As if summoned by her words, long-range sensors throughout the galaxy began detecting something at the edge of known space. A massive object, dark and cold, moving slowly toward the outer systems. It was a void kraken, one of the ancient predators that fed on stellar energy. A creature so large that it could wrap its tentacles around entire planets. Left alone, it would consume every star in its path until whole regions of the galaxy went dark. The detection networks that spotted it were human-built, human-maintained systems that the Council had never known existed. For centuries, humanity had been watching for such threats and quietly dealing with them before they could endanger inhabited worlds. But now, Colonel Kim gave a single order to the Human Defense Network. Stand down. Across the galaxy, the ancient automated defense platforms that had been protecting Council space for centuries began powering down. The weapons that had been destroying cosmic threats in secret went silent. The shields that had been deflecting dangerous radiation from inhabited worlds deactivated. For 300 years, Colonel Kim continued her broadcast, we have fought battles that would give you nightmares. We have faced enemies that destroy entire star systems. For amusement, we have died by the millions to keep threats away from your worlds. The Void Kraken continued its approach, and now Council sensors were finally detecting it. Panic began spreading from world to world as beings realized what was heading toward them. The Shadow Fleet from dark space, which consumes the life force of entire civilizations. We defeated them at the Battle of the Empty Stars while you slept peacefully. The quantum devourers that eat matter itself. We drove them back into the dimensional rifts they came from. The Time Reapers that erase species from history. We fought a war across 4 dimensions to stop them. More alarms were sounding now as other threats began appearing at the galaxy's edge. It was as if the universe itself was demonstrating humanity's words. Ancient enemies that had been held back by human power were beginning to test the borders now that the defenses were down. Every threat we faced alone. Every victory we won in silence. Every life we saved without asking for thanks or recognition. On the Council station, Supreme Chancellor Morden was staring at the tactical displays with growing horror. The Void Kraken was not the only threat approaching. Deep space monitors were detecting at least 6 other massive entities heading toward inhabited space. Admiral Park, he said in a voice that shook with fear. What are those things? Fleet. Admiral Yunji Park looked at the displays with the calm expression of someone who had seen such sights many times before. Those are the reasons we never told you the truth, she said simply, because knowing about them would have driven your species insane with terror. She gestured to the screens showing the approaching threats. Every single one of those entities could destroy your entire civilization without effort. And every single one of them has been trying to reach your worlds for centuries. The only thing stopping them has been us. The communication from the Terra's wrath continued. Now you know our true identity. Now you know what we have done for you. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? The galaxy remained silent, but it was no longer the silence of shock. It was the silence of an entire civilization realizing that they were not the masters of their own fate, and that they never had been. President Dayuno stood before the cameras in New Geneva, Earth's true capital city. Behind her, the gleaming towers of humanity's greatest metropolis stretched toward the sky, home to 50 million beings from dozens of worlds. This was not the simple farming settlement the Council had been shown for centuries. The broadcast was going out to every inhabited world in the galaxy. After 300 years of deception, humanity was finally showing its true face to the universe. People of the galaxy, she began, her voice steady and strong. I am President Dayuno of the United Earth Federation. Today we offer you a choice. Around her, the city hummed with activity that would have amazed any Council observer. Flying vehicles moved between buildings that touched the clouds. Massive screens displayed information in hundreds of languages. Beings of all kinds walked the streets together. Humans, yes, but also aliens who had chosen to live in human space, drawn by the promise of safety and opportunity. For 3 centuries, we have hidden our true nature from you. We told you we were simple farmers on a backward world. We let you believe we needed your protection and guidance. The president paused, letting her words sink in across the galaxy. We did this not out of fear, but out of hope. We hoped that your civilizations would grow strong enough and wise enough that we could eventually reveal ourselves as equals. We wanted partners in protecting this galaxy, not subjects to rule over. On the bridge of the fortress ship Terra's Wrath, Admiral Sunho John was monitoring the galaxy's response to the president's speech. The results were mixed. Some worlds were broadcasting messages of surrender. Others were demanding proof of humanity's claims. A few were still threatening war. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from the Void Kraken. It's asking permission to feed on the Altarian home system." Admiral John's expression didn't change. He had been expecting this. "Relay the message to the Altarian government. Let them see what happens when human protection is removed." The message went out across galactic communication networks. The Void Kraken, one of the ancient predators that fed on stellar energy, was politely asking if it could consume the Altarian sun and everything around it. The creature's message was translated into hundreds of languages, but the meaning was clear in all of them. Without human protection, entire civilizations were just food. President O continued her broadcast. "The threats we have been protecting you from are not myths or distant possibilities. They are real, they are ancient, and they are hungry. Without our protection, most of your species would not survive 6 months." To prove her point, she activated a series of displays that showed the galaxy's true situation. Ancient automated defense platforms that humanity had been maintaining throughout Council space began revealing themselves. There were thousands of them hidden in asteroids floating in empty space disguised as natural phenomena. "These platforms have been quietly destroying cosmic threats for centuries," the president explained. "Asteroid swarms that would shatter planets, radiation bursts that would sterilize entire star systems, dimensional rifts that would let unspeakable horrors into our reality." As she spoke, the platforms demonstrated their power. A massive asteroid, one that would have destroyed 3 inhabited worlds in its path, was vaporized by weapons the Council had never known existed. A dangerous radiation storm was absorbed by shields that turned deadly energy into harmless light. On the Council station, Supreme Chancellor Mordoon was meeting with the Emergency Leadership Committee. The room was full of scared alien leaders who were finally beginning to understand their true situation. "The military assessment is complete," reported Battle Commander Vorthek, his electronic voice shaking with emotion. "Human industrial capacity exceeds our combined output by a factor of 12. Their population is larger than our 3 greatest empires put together. Their technology, we estimate they are at least 2 centuries ahead of our most advanced science." Fleet Commander Insu Park, who had been quietly observing the Council's military preparations for decades, chose that moment to reveal the true scope of human technology. His ships began demonstrating capabilities that made Council science seem like stone tools. Dark matter manipulation that could move entire planets, quantum tunneling that allowed instant travel across the galaxy, time dilation fields that could slow enemy attacks to a crawl, energy weapons that could crack moons with a single shot. "We have mastered forces that your scientists think are impossible," he said in a message to all Council military leaders. "We have weapons that exist in multiple dimensions. We have defenses that operate outside normal space-time. We have been holding back for centuries because using our full power would have terrified you." The demonstrations were having their intended effect. World after world was abandoning plans for military resistance. The sheer scale of human power was beyond anything they could fight. But President O was not finished. Her broadcast continued, with an offer that would change galactic civilization forever. "We do not want to rule over you. We do not want to make you our subjects. What we want is what we have always wanted: partners in protecting this galaxy and all life within it." She activated another set of displays showing the new galactic order that humanity was proposing. Council species would maintain their independence and their governments. They would keep their cultures and their ways of life. But they would acknowledge humanity's role as the galaxy's protector and provider of advanced technology. "In exchange for this recognition, we will continue to protect you from threats you cannot imagine. We will share technologies that will advance your civilizations by centuries. We will help you explore new worlds and expand across the stars." Chief Diplomat Hyo Jin-yoon was already in negotiations with representatives from dozens of Council worlds. The new Galactic Accords were being written in real time, establishing humanity's role as protector while preserving the rights and freedoms of all species. The Crystalline Collective has agreed to the new arrangements, she reported to President O. So have the Altarians, the Granite People, and the Waterworld Federations. They're calling it the Terran Protection Compact. But not everyone was ready to accept the new reality. Emperor Zal Corvian of the Stellar Dynasty was still calling for resistance, still believing that the combined council fleets could somehow defeat humanity. His delusions ended when Captain J-Ho Lee arrived at the dynasty's capital world. The Soul's Pride, which had appeared to be a simple merchant vessel for decades, revealed its true nature. It was a battleship disguised as a cargo hauler, and it was not alone. Hundreds of similar vessels throughout council space dropped their disguises. Your merchant marine was our spy network, Captain Lee explained in a message to the Emperor. Every trade route, every cargo shipment, every commercial transaction has been monitored by human agents for centuries. We know your worlds better than you do. The final resistance collapsed when the Emperor realized that humanity had been managing galactic trade all along. Every economic boom, every resource shortage that had been mysteriously resolved, every trade agreement that had seemed too good to be true, all of it had been human manipulation designed to keep the galaxy stable and prosperous. 6 months later, Captain J-Ho Lee stood on the observation deck of New Busan, one of humanity's great orbital cities that was now visible to all. Below him, former council warships were docking for technological upgrades that would advance them by centuries. The galaxy was no longer silent. It hummed with the activity of true cooperation for the first time in its history. Trade flowed more freely than ever before. Exploration ships equipped with human technology were discovering wonders that had been impossible to reach. Scientific cooperation was advancing knowledge at an incredible pace. Ambassador Taemin Jung, who had once been suspicious of humanity, now served as the first non-human liaison to Earth's government. He often stood on the observation deck, marveling at how much the galaxy had changed. Do you ever regret it? He asked Captain Lee one day. Revealing the truth, giving up your secret advantage? Captain Lee smiled as he watched a mixed crew of humans and aliens working together to repair a damaged exploration vessel. We were never meant to rule the galaxy in secret, he said. We were meant to protect it until it was strong enough to protect itself. Maybe now, finally, that day has come. In the deep monitoring stations at the galaxy's edge, sensor specialist Ji-Hoon Song was watching the borders where ancient threats still lurked in the darkness. The Void Kraken had been convinced to feed on dead stars instead of living worlds. The Shadow Fleet had been pushed back into dark space. The dimensional rifts had been sealed with new technology developed jointly by human and council scientists. But his sensors were detecting something new. A signal from beyond the galactic rim, coming from another galaxy entirely. It bore the unmistakable signature of intelligence, and it was getting stronger. Admiral, he called to his commanding officer. You need to see this. The signal was a message, translated by human computers into understandable language. We have been watching your galaxy. We have seen your growth. We are coming to meet you. President O, now leader of the Galactic Protection Alliance, received the report with calm acceptance. The alarm bells rang through the massive space station that housed the Galactic Council. Red lights flashed in every corridor as beings from dozens of different worlds rushed to the emergency meeting hall. Something big had happened, and everyone could feel the tension in the recycled air. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim walked slowly through the chaos, his face calm, but his heart racing. For 300 years, he had played his role perfectly. Earth was just a small, peaceful world with simple farmers and basic technology. That was the story he told everyone, and that was what they all believed. But now everything might change. The huge meeting hall filled with strange creatures of all shapes and sizes. The bird-like Altarians flapped their wings nervously. The rock-skinned granite people moved like slow mountains. The floating jellyfish beings from the water worlds glowed with worry. All of them were talking at once in hundreds of different languages. Chairman Veltar of Nexus Prime raised his forearms for silence. He was tall and blue, with eyes like black diamonds. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the hall. "Council. Members," Veltar began. "We have received a transmission from the Sol system. From Earth." Yunwu felt his stomach drop, but he kept his face blank. Around him, other beings turned to look at him with curiosity. Earth was not important in their minds. It was just another backward world on the edge of known space. The transmission was heavily coded, Veltar continued. Our best minds took days to break it open. What we found inside has shocked us all. A huge screen appeared above the hall. On it, they could see space around Earth's sun. But something was wrong. The images showed massive metal structures floating in the darkness. Huge ships moved between the planets. Bright lights marked what looked like cities on worlds that should have been empty. The hall went very quiet. "Ambassador Kim," Veltar said, his voice harder now. "Perhaps you can explain this to us." Hyunwoo stood up slowly. His legs felt weak, but he had to stay calm. 3 centuries of lies depended on what he said next. "Honored Chairman," he said in his most innocent voice, "I am not sure what you are showing us. These images must be from some other star system. Earth has no such technology." But even as he spoke, more beings were arriving at the hall. Dr. Yoon-ji. Park entered from a side door, still wearing her simple clothes that made her look like a basic scientist from a backward world. Behind her came Captain Jae-ho Lee, and Hyunwoo noticed fresh damage on the captain's uniform that looked like it came from weapon fire, not the asteroid collision he had reported. The Altarian ambassador, Tae Min-jung, stood up. His feathers were ruffled with anger. "We demand a full investigation," he squawked. "These readings show energy use greater than most of our homeworlds, industrial activity that would require billions of workers. This cannot be the same Earth that claims to have only 500 million simple farmers." Other voices joined in. The Crystalline Collective speaker, a being made of living crystal, chimed like broken glass. "Our deep sensors detect quantum, signatures from your system, signatures that match our most advanced manufacturing." Hyunwoo looked at Dr. Park, who gave him the smallest nod. She was ready to play her part, just as they had practiced for decades. "Honored beings," Dr. Park said in a small, confused voice. "I am just a simple researcher. I study plants and soil. I do not understand these big words you use. Quantum, manufacturing? We have no such things on Earth." But Captain Jae-ho Lee was having trouble. The damage to his ship was too fresh, too obvious. When the trade inspector Lixandra asked about the burn marks on his hull, he stuttered through his story about asteroids. His hands shook as he spoke. The truth was, Captain Lee had just returned from the Kuiper Belt, where Earth's real fleet was conducting training exercises. Thousands of warships had been practicing battle formations in the cold darkness beyond Pluto. The asteroid damage was actually from weapons testing with the newest energy cannons. In the audience, War Chief Brakthar of the Savage clans sniffed the air. His people could smell lies, and something about the humans made his nose twitch. "You smell of fear," he growled at Hyunwoo, "and of metal, hot metal and burning fuel. These are not the smells of farmers." Engineer So Young Choi, who had been sitting quietly in the back, suddenly spoke up without thinking. "The shipyards in Sector 7 have been working overtime lately, which might explain the increased energy." She stopped. The entire hall stared at her. "Shipyards?" Veltar asked slowly. I meant Agricultural District 7, So Young said quickly. "The farming equipment there has been very busy, but it was too late." The word shipyards hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Admiral Dong-hyun Nam, watching the meeting from Luna Base through a secret feed, put his head in his hands. Their careful deception, built over 3 centuries, was falling apart in real time. On the screen, the evidence kept coming. More ships appeared in the images, massive space stations that dwarfed anything the Council had ever built, energy readings that showed a civilization far more advanced than most Council. Members, we have been watching your system for the past month, Veltar announced. What we see does not match what you have told us. Your primitive world has technology that rivals our greatest achievements. Your small population appears to number in the billions. Your peaceful farmers seem to have built a war fleet that could challenge any member of this council. The accusations flew like arrows. Species after species stood up to demand answers. How long had Earth been lying? What else were they hiding? Were they planning to attack the council? Through it all, Hyunwoo kept his innocent face, but inside his mind was racing. He activated a hidden transmitter in his pocket, sending a coded message back to Earth. Cover blown, prepare for exposure. On Luna Base, Admiral Nam received the message and immediately sent alerts to every hidden human facility in the galaxy. Project Masquerade, their greatest deception, was coming to an end. Dr. Park tried one more time to save their cover story. Perhaps there has been some mistake, she said. Maybe these images are old from before our civilization fell back to simple ways. We humans have short memories. We may have forgotten our past. But Fleet Commander Korthix of the Hegemony was already standing. His people were master strategists and he could see through any lie. No, he said in his electronic voice. These energy patterns are fresh. These ships are new. Your people have been building while telling us they could barely build wooden plows. The question is not whether you have deceived us. The question is why. As the meeting dissolved into chaos, with dozens of species shouting accusations and demands, Hyunwoo caught the eye of his fellow humans in the hall. They all knew what this meant. Their peaceful deception was over, but they also knew something the Council did not. Earth had not been hiding because it was weak. Earth had been hiding because the truth was too terrifying for the galaxy to handle. In the depths of space, monitoring stations that the Council had never detected began powering up ancient systems. Defense platforms that had been sleeping for centuries started their wake-up sequences. And in the hidden shipyards of the outer system, the real human fleet prepared to show itself to a galaxy that was about to learn just how small and helpless it really was.